Hello everybody, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jackie and I create mosaics using sea glass. And today I'm going to talk to you about my sea glass mosaic flower bed, part 4. So this is my 4th video in a series of videos that I'm doing to show you the entire process that I use to complete a sea glass mosaic. So I started out doing a sea glass mosaic flower bed, and I showed you the steps that were involved in getting started and in getting the flower bed bottom part filled. And then last week I showed you how to create the flowers themselves. So since last week I've finished my flowers. I'm going to show you that, and I'm going to show you the steps that I have left to do, which is basically to fill in the background with white and then to put some finishing touches. So I'll see how far I can get with that today. So let's get started. So here's my flower bed since last week. I have the flowers all glued on, and as you can see I've finished with some of the grasses coming up from the bottom and all of the brown bits coming up. And you'll see with a few of these flowers, you can see here where I've have the stem coming from the side, and in a couple of them I have the stem coming from the top. And I've added some more pieces since last week, and I got them all glued on. And I have everything in place. So at this stage I have all the brown and the green finished, and I have the flowers finished and glued on. So now I'm going to work on getting the white bits all filled in the background. So here I am where all I have left to do is to fill in all of the white background bits. My board of white sea glass. You can see I've got lots of white here. I am not going to use a lot of big white, so I have mostly small and mediums here. And I also have a bunch of my aqua mixed in with my white. So what I'm doing here is I want to fill in all of these areas that are blank with white sea glass. And I have quite a bit of sea glass to pick from, so I can find just the right pieces that fit in all the spots that I've left blank. So when I was working on this sea glass piece to create the flowers, I needed to be looking at the overall design as I was going, because I wanted to make sure that everything was well balanced and it all worked well in the overall design. Whereas at this stage of the design, I'm just filling in background bits, so I can just focus on one area of the design at a time. So usually when I get to this point in a design, when I'm working on a window that has panes like this one, I just do one pane at a time. So you might be thinking, good heavens, this is 4 weeks and you're still working on the same project. Well, this is not fast art. It is slow art. It takes a while to do any sea glass mosaic. But this particular sea glass mosaic, it's kind of a big project. It's a fairly large window frame. So I knew it's going to take me a while to do it. The other thing is this is my hobby, not my job. So I have to just grab a few minutes here and there when I can to work on it, because I have other stuff going on in my life. But I would encourage you that if you want to do a sea glass mosaic, don't think that you're never going to get it done. Just if you pick away at it, half hour here and there, it will eventually get done. And I always tend to look at it. It's the hours and hours of relaxation that this provides me that I really do enjoy. If you notice right there, I don't know if you can tell, but that's a tiny little pebble that I included. Some of those white pebbles, I just can't help but pick them up. The white pebbles that kind of look like a piece of glass, but I know they're not. I often put them in with my white just because it's interesting. And when you look at it, you may not even notice that it's a pebble and not a piece of glass. One of those interesting details that encourages people to look closer and take note of what they might be seeing. So you can see as I start to get this filled in more, it begins to take on much more of a finished look, at least in my mind. Because I find when the background isn't filled in, it doesn't look finished or completed to me. And then when you add in all the white sea glasses, particularly in a design like this, you can see that the white really separates the green and the brown, so it makes them stand out even more, which I kind of like. So often when I'm filling in the white section in an area of my sea glass piece, I like to use all different shapes and sizes of sea glass. But for this design, I'm going to stick primarily to small and medium whites. The thing about working primarily with small and medium pieces is it takes you a lot longer to fill in. The other thing I find is when I'm piecing large pieces together, I kind of prefer to have a fair amount of space between the pieces. But when I'm piecing small pieces together, I like them to be fairly snug. So again, that adds to how long it takes me to do it. So as you can see when I'm placing the pieces, I really like to have a little space between each of the sea glass pieces. And it's sort of like piecing pieces of a puzzle together, except it's not quite like a puzzle because there's more than one option for a piece that might fit in a particular spot, whereas in a puzzle there's only one right piece in each part of the puzzle. So I kind of like things to fit together like the pieces of a puzzle, but they don't have to be exact. And that's part of the magic of mosaic. Just because your eye fills in the bits that aren't there. Sometimes when I'm going through my pieces, I'll find perfect petal pieces. Here's a couple of perfect white petals for a flower. So what I'll probably do is eventually come up with enough and put a flower like that in the background. Another thing I kind of like to do when I'm working on an area like this is to use varying thicknesses of pieces. So I just put on a couple of pieces there that are quite thick, but they're right beside pieces that are fairly thin. So once the silicone has set and they're all in there nice and secure, I can run my hand over it like that there is all set. And the texture of it is really neat. So I like to do that as well. Anything that makes it more interesting. So as you can see here, I did get enough of those triangular white ones to make a bit of a flower here. And when it's all put together, it'll just kind of blend in with the rest of the white. But it adds a little bit of a detail there that if you look close, you'll see there's a kind of a white flower within all the white. So I'm just going to carry on here and do as much of this as I can before next week, and I will show you my progress. I hope this has been really inspiring for you. Thanks a lot for joining me today, and if you have any questions or comments, just post them and I will address them in my next video. Until next week, bye everyone.